Everybody, it's Frances Reaves, president of Parent Your Parents, and your favorite estate and Medicaid planning lawyer, just in case you didn't know. Today I have with me a really wonderful surprise guest, Adita Lang from aditalang.com. Adita is the president of her company. She does corporate wellness. She teaches exercise for Silver Fit, but you can be like me and still dye your hair blonde and go to her exercise class. And she's also an author and brought a couple of her books with us. Welcome, Adita. How are you?
Great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no. Thank you so much for coming. So it looks to me as though you've put a whole lot of stuff together into a way to stay healthy. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what it is, how you do it, I guess would be the way to say it.
Well, let me backtrack a little bit. I started 40 some odd years ago. So I started teaching group fitness when it wasn't popular. We didn't have fancy sneakers, and I used vinyl records between songs. So everybody stopped because I had to change the record, and then we started again. And so that's how I started.
Okay.
And in that, I started also traveling and teaching all the fitness professionals, and then got more involved in, well, what's happening in the science of health. And then, of course, working with clients one-on-one and seeing the consequences of their actions, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So it just inspired me to do more and more and more. And this is my lifestyle. I live and I breathe this because I know the consequences. I've seen it go on.
Yeah.
And so with fitness and with health, I think it just needs to be a primary part of people's lives. I see so many people struggling to work and make all this money and stress themselves out, and then they can't enjoy it.
Right.
Because they don't have the health for it. So that is my whole campaign, is I want to root out there and get everybody really moving. It doesn't matter what your age is.
Right. I agree.
And that's the bottom line.
And the studies show that also.
Yep.
That it doesn't matter when you start exercising. You will get better. Whether and that means 80, 85, 90, it really doesn't matter.
Correct.
So I'm a little like you. I started a long, long time ago. Actually, I think it was it was even before. Oh my gosh. I think it was around 40 years ago, but we had tapes that we could put in, and I was an aerobics teacher. Remember aerobics on those little stages?
Yes.
And you were doing
Yes, I was right there with you.
Yeah. It was, and it stayed with me, but I started out my life in ballet. So for me, it was something I had to do something. And when I quit ballet, because it turns out I'm at 5'10", you were too tall to be a ballerina. Nobody told me that until I was about 20. But oh well. But I started running. And what shocked me about running, and the only reason I started running is because the boyfriend at the time was on the track team, and Texas Christian, my university, was following Title IX guidelines and started a women's track team. And so, wanting to be with my boyfriend, I thought, okay, I'll just, go do track, which I was horrible at. But it totally showed me how you got in shape. I mean, I couldn't believe my body after a semester. In other words, I couldn't believe the weight I'd lost. Just as far as I was concerned, was running hard work? It was, but it was also fun. You were out there with other women. It was all, it was all good.
Yeah.
So tell me about the corporate wellness part of what you do.
Well, before COVID, I would go into corporations and I would provide them lectures on healthy heart living, stress management, obesity, diabetes, all of that. Now with COVID, everything has changed a little bit. So now I do more things virtually, which is actually more of a blessing for a lot of those corporations because they have offices in 10 different cities. So now instead of hiring 10 different people or flying me all over the place, we have one. And everybody comes to that one seminar. I'll do cooking classes for them.
When you do a cooking class, tell me about that. What do you teach them? Do you teach them?
I don't teach them. I am not a chef. I am not really teaching them how to cook. But oddly enough, the average person really doesn't even know how to cook quinoa. Let's get real.
Well, I don't know how to cook.
And so,
quinoa.
so here's the thing.
Example.
So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to teach people to get in and out of the kitchen in 20 minutes and to make something that is incredibly nutritious. and understanding that it really doesn't take that much time. We can do these things simply. So my cooking classes are always simple things that people can create easily, but yet they pack in the nutrition per bite.
Now, let me ask you this. It takes, 20 minutes for me. I'm thinking I'm going to get some cheese and crackers, but I drink vodka and then I add lime to it. So it's vodka on the rocks with lime, about a half of a lime, the juice, which is vitamin C, and it prevents scurvy. Now, would that be something you would have? No.
I would skip vodka.
Why? There's no sugar.
I know, but here's the thing. So here's the thing. What is your favorite? Do you have a favorite sports car?
No, I don't like to drive.
Okay.
Either.
So I have a favorite.
I want a Rolls Royce.
Okay. Well, actually,
with a driver.
that goes right along with this.
Okay.
Okay. My favorite sports car is a Maserati. And I met a Maserati fixer person, mechanical person at one point, years and years ago. And he said to me, he goes, if you give the car regular gasoline, in 1 week, it will not drive the same. Because this is a finely tuned engine and needs to have premium gasoline.
Okay.
And your body is a finely tuned engine that needs to have premium gasoline.
Well, my vodka is premium.
Things like that. I know. The problem is things like that break down as sugars. And it's not saying that you can't have vodka, but now it's about minimizing your sugars throughout the day.
Okay.
Is really what it is. So it's sugar, flour, dairy, and alcohol.
Okay.
They all break down like a sugar. So the objective is to have 0 to 1 sugar per meal and snack. So in theory, if you want to have vodka at dinner, well, that's great, but don't have it with pasta, cream sauce, and bread.
Oh, okay, then I'm fine.
Okay, see, there we go. Problem solved.
In fact, I don't even like to eat, especially after that first vodka. But the lime has vitamin C.
The lime, I'm going to give you that one. You get the lime with the vitamin C. Absolutely, yes.
All right. Tell us a little bit about your books. I'm envious only because I am in the midst of publishing my book. So I know how much work goes into them.
Yes, they do go into a lot of work. My very first book was Superpowers, A Busy Woman's Guide to Health and Happiness.
Yeah.
And I published this.
Producer Alex, can you see that on the screen? Should we bring it up closer? Here. Where?
Too close.
There it is. Is that good? There it is. Super. I'm doing something wrong. Do I need to write? Okay. Sorry.
No worries. Okay, so this book I had put together because I had just had kids. Everybody and all my friends were struggling so hard in regards to their body, their eating, their stress, through this, through that, and the other.
Yeah.
And I was just like, no, it's not that complicated. It really is not that complicated. We are the ones making it complicated. So when I teach about health, I teach about the 4 pillars of health. And that's going to be your exercise and movement, food and nutrition, sleep and relaxation, and happiness. And if you can combine those evenly throughout the day, you're a healthy individual. Bottom line. So this book is broken down into those 4 parts, but it's dedicated to women. It's dedicated because we as women take care of everybody.
Mm-hmm. No, it's
right?
in our
it's in our DNA.
Yep, I agree with you.
We want to take care of everybody, but unfortunately, then we forget to take care of ourselves. And the reality is, if we stop and take care of ourselves, we're a much happier, healthier individual, and it's easier for us to motivate and inspire other people. Mm-hmm. I meet women all the time. They're like, no, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm happy-go-lucky. And I'm looking at them going, no, you're stressed out.
Yeah, no, I know
I can see it.
I know those women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're stressed out, you can't genuinely inspire somebody else.
No. And I think also it doesn't help you as a mother.
Of course not.
Because then you take it out on the kids without thinking you're taking out on the kids. I always say that the best mothers are the mothers who are doing things for themselves. Because if you're doing something for yourself, it's so much easier then to find time to do something for someone else. It's so much less stressful.
I think the biggest challenge has been is that most people have gotten the word selfish and self-care completely confused.
I couldn't
And we
agree
were
more.
raised that we're not supposed to be selfish.
Right.
So then when we think that, wait, I just want to take a moment and have a cup of tea and paint my nails. Wait, that's selfish. I shouldn't do that.
I know.
Right? And then you don't do it, and then you don't take care of yourself, and then you're a cranky hot mess.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is. So I think really trying to understand that there is a huge difference between selfish and self-care, and understanding that self-care is going to empower you so that you can empower others.
Well, this is how bad I am. I'm always like working. And so if I just take 30 minutes out to like get on an elliptical or the Stairmaster, if I just take 30 minutes out, I always watch something like The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel or something on TV, because it's like, okay. But I can't, if I were to just sit down and watch it, that would not be right. You know, it's so ridiculous. Intellectually, I know that's ridiculous. There's nothing wrong with me just taking half hour out of my day, meditating, reading a book, watching something on my iPad. Instead, it's almost like we're going around with our phone, right? And here, even on my walks, I find myself, sometimes I'm just like, okay, I'm going to play Wordle. I'm just going to relax a little bit, but it's hard to do. It's, you know, I mean, I know that you have had to have found a happy medium because you're a go-getter, just like I am. So what was your first clue? How did you first say, okay, I've got to stop this? What do we call those?
Kindergarten.
Things? Kindergarten.
Not for me, for my son.
Okay.
First kid, kindergarten. Coming home with homework. And
At kindergarten?
And I'd be like, just cross the T. And I could feel it. I could feel the like, cross the T. That's all you need to do is cross the T, cross it, right? And so at that moment, I realized that I hadn't had time to have lunch. Tea is my go-to. I love tea. And it doesn't even have to be caffeinated. As long as I have a warm mug in my hand, it just makes me feel very comforted. So then I started, you know, I would go and I lived on Key Biscayne at the time. I would walk across the street to pick up my son, and I'd walk back home. So I would leave myself my lunch prepared and my hot tea sitting on the counter. So we would get home, we'd sit down and do homework. And as I was with homework, I'd be eating my lunch and I would be taking care of myself. And I realized, wow, you know what? You've spent the whole day working and doing whatever you've been doing, and you didn't even give yourself time for lunch.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking.
So that's where it was like, wait a minute, this is what I need to be doing for myself. I need to still take care of me, because then I'm happier for him. You know, and later on it translated happier for my daughter, right? So it has to do with us taking these moments in time. And I'll do it. I'll be in the middle of a project and just really into it, and I can feel, it's like this heated feeling, like you feel like a little anxious, but you're not really. And I'm like, that's my cue. That's my cue.
Yeah.
And then at that point, I will just stop. And I can go take a walk with the dog. I can drink a cup of tea. I call up girlfriends. We have to solve world peace. We do this like 3 or 4 times a week.
You solve world peace?
We solve world peace with tea, with a cup of tea. Someone has to do it. So that's what we do. So when you find these things that you enjoy, we're all individual. You know, that may not work for you, but when we find these things, those are the things that empower us.
Right.
And they actually give us more energy during the day too.
Well, I mean, I'm a huge fan on the fact that the more energy you give out, the more you get. And I mean, I walk my 6 miles every day. Not every day, sometimes. And Sundays I take off. Sundays, it's like, try to get me out of bed before 10. Just try to get me out of bed before 10. and I've just started doing that. I mean, I'm not even sure it's been a year yet. But what I've noticed is how much I look forward to Sundays. And like on Saturday, if something else shows up, I'm like, it's okay, Frances, tomorrow you have off. It's like, okay, tomorrow I have off. So I get that. And now tell us about your second book.
So the second book, I did it for parents.
Oh, there, she's got it. Superpowers of the Family Kitchen.
And this is to help parents feed their kids, because the other thing I started to notice with it was all in kindergarten. They had a meeting of the parents in regards to lunches. The lunches that they served at the school were just terrible. And these parents would raise their hand going, okay, that's great. You guys want to change the school lunches, but I don't even know what to make my kid for lunch. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, that's not that difficult. So I created an entire course for parents on how to feed their kids and understanding that when you're pregnant, you're basically growing a baby from scratch. So whatever you eat, consume is part of the foundation of the baby when the baby comes out.
Right.
And then once the baby comes out, you're growing a child from scratch. So again, you're creating a foundation. And then as they get bigger, now I have a 17-year-old. I'm growing an adult from scratch. Right? And now me and you, we are growing seniors from scratch. I wrote an article the other day and I said, listen, one of my goals is I want to be a rocking 90-year-old.
Yeah.
I want to be the 90-year-old that's still driving. That can say whatever she feels like saying. She can dress any way she wants to dress, and all is good. Right?
Yeah.
But you have to have energy to do that. You really do. So, if you don't eat a certain way, if you don't, drink a certain way, if you don't do move a certain way, you're not going to make it to that.
Right.
And that is my goal. So, everything that I do now, I'm doing it now because I want to get there.
Right.
So the foundation is our kids. And so I wanted to help parents reach that, understand that, listen, you're growing a kid from scratch. So it's not okay to give them mac and cheese.
It's not?
No,
I thought that's all they gave them.
That is all they give them because it's the easiest thing to cook. But remember what I said earlier, sugar is sugar, flour, dairy, alcohol.
Oh, they have everything but the alcohol in there.
They do. So unfortunately, that's the beginning of a sugar addiction.
Wow.
And then the parents are like, oh, but my kid doesn't pay attention. My kid doesn't do that. And it's like, well, but you're loading them up on sugar.
Yeah.
So those are the things that we have to watch out for. And, creating the foundation then is going to work on creating healthier adults and seniors.
Okay, so and honestly, I'm stepping out a little bit of my knowledge base here. But if you don't feed your kids mac and cheese, isn't it all they crave after? Like all their friends bring it to school and they don't get mac and cheese. And I'm asking.
Okay, so not necessarily. You're creating their palate.
Okay.
So my kids, for example, I'm a firm believer. I don't, in my house, we eat a certain way. But if my kids went to your house and you gave them mac and cheese, oh, well.
Yeah.
I don't have that's what it is. But that's outside food. It's not inside food. So their foundation is what I provide in my kitchen.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So that to me is very important because you don't want kids to feel like, oh, but so-and-so gets that and I don't get that.
Right.
I also, for their school lunches, they needed packages. So I buy the Whole Foods packages. So my kids' lunches were maybe $15. Another kid's lunches were $4 because of the quality of the ingredients that I put in it. So I made sure my kids had packages. They just weren't the same packages. And that's all they really cared about at that time when they were little. So, these things, again, it's creating their palate.
What do you mean by packages?
So like little packages of cookies, for example. There's a big difference between a little package of Oreos and a little packages of Amy's all natural organic cookies.
Okay.
Right?
So you're one of those organic
So
people.
I wanted the right ingredients. So for example, corn syrup and high fructose corn syrup, first off, it's one of the number one challenges with cholesterol. It's addictive. It's been proven to be addictive. So a lot of manufacturers.
And here I thought it was the Oreos.
Yeah, see? A lot of the manufacturers got really smart. And so corn syrup and high fructose corn syrup are cheaper than sugar. So think of it. I'm a manufacturer. I'm going to make cookies. I want to get kids involved in the cookies. I want to really get them hooked in. It's cheaper for me to use corn syrup. I'm going to use corn syrup. Plus, they'll get addicted. They have to tell their parents now they want those damn cookies. So there you go. It's this cycle of terror that goes on. And so it has to do with ingredients.
So what about our elders? What are your suggestions for them? I mean, I will say, once you pass 80, if you want to have Oreos, I say go ahead, have Oreos. But prior to that, like I'm in my 60s now. What would you say to me? I mean, other than the vodka, I do pretty well. But nevertheless, what would you say to me if I didn't do pretty well? What would you suggest?
So foods digest differently in the body. And so here's one of the things. Anything with flour and sugar has this chemical reaction in the back of our brain that makes us feel comforted.
Oh.
And so if you think about it, like times of stress,
Mm-hmm.
and someone brings over a platter of freshly baked chocolate chip cookies that are warm, sounds pretty good.
Uh-huh.
And you'll eat one and you go, oh, you know what? I think I feel a little bit better. That was really nice,
Yeah.
right? We've been conditioned for that.
Uh-huh.
So when people are getting older, some people allow the stress of all their life to catch up to them. And now they have migrated more to flour and processed foods.
Okay.
That's one group.
And it's easier too.
And
the
it's
process,
easier. Well, that's going to be my second part, is that it's easier. So some of those people, maybe they're single, maybe they just don't want to cook anymore, or maybe they just never knew how to cook. It's easier. I get it. But unfortunately, it's not feeding the brain and the body the right way. So energy will start to dissolve. Muscle tissue will start to dissolve. Right? So we want to make sure that we're nourishing our body. And here's the interesting thing, like about protein. So protein, we can't store, but protein is restorative. So protein is something that you need when you get sick. It's something that you need if you get injured. You need it for repair.
Right.
But you usually can only get it when you're eating it. On the other hand, if you weight train, you create storage. Your muscles create storage of protein. So if something happens to you, you have a storage. You don't have to immediately run out and eat protein because you have storage.
Now, I remember when I was training for marathons, we had to have proteins 2 days before. In other words, after like 2 days before the marathon, a protein wasn't going to help you anymore because it took 48 hours to process in the body. I mean, is that still, I mean, I remember because then you have pasta, the 2 days prior to the.
The training diet has changed a little bit, but
I'm sure
for the most part. So you have two kinds of proteins. You have a plant-based protein and an animal-based protein.
Okay.
Animal-based proteins take longer to digest.
Okay.
Bottom line.
Okay.
Okay.
Like fish.
Like fish, like chicken, like steak, they take longer to digest.
Okay.
Plant-based proteins like beans, nuts, seeds are quickly to digest.
Okay.
So it's a little bit different. So now, and if you think about you just running, if I gave you a steak dinner and said, now go run, you'd be like, I can't, I just feel heavy. There's no way, because it hasn't broken down, digested. On the other hand, if I gave you an apple and smeared almond butter on it and said, go do it, take a run, you'd be like, okay, I can go run. I don't feel like I had that heaviness in me. So that's part of it, right? So either way, we need the protein, but yes, we do need to recognize that some proteins take longer to digest than others. And the other thing too is, as we're getting older, our digestive system doesn't work the same. And it, in essence, like right now today, your digestion and my digestion are totally different. So I could put you on the Adita diet and maybe you gain weight. Maybe you feel foggy headed. Maybe you just feel lethargic. For somebody else, maybe they lost weight. And it's because we metabolize foods differently.
Right. Everybody does.
Everybody does, right?
Yeah.
So the idea is to figure out as an individual, what foods work for me? You should never feel gassy. No one wants to talk about that. But the reality is you should never feel gassy. If you feel gassy, you're not digesting something correctly. If you're not digesting it correctly, you're not absorbing the nutrition you should be from that food.
Oh, isn't that?
So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's about each of us creating our own personal food regime that empowers us, that gives us health, that doesn't make us feel lethargic. And that's something that has to happen at any age.
Yeah.
So that we can do the things we want to do.
Okay. So, it's funny because I think a lot of elders think that gas is just a part of growing old. Wow.
They think, it's funny because gas, they think is like a disease. And they also think the loss of balance is like a disease. And it's
not.
It's a training principle that we have to just work on.
No.
My firm belief when it comes to the movement of seniors is they need to be able to listen up. You need to be able to get up and off the floor and up and out of a chair without assistance. Period.
Exactly.
End of story. It doesn't matter what age you are. I'm telling you right now. That is it.
I can't get up and off the floor without going to my knees first.
Well, you'll get onto your knees first. That's fine.
Oh,
but I'm just saying, no, you can get onto your knees, okay? But you need to get up off the floor.
Right.
Like if you need to, I have met people in their 70s that cannot get up off the floor.
Well, younger than that.
That's true too.
No. I mean, just all you have to do is add 30 pounds.
Correct.
And not get off the floor.
Yes.
So, No, that I take Marquinhos class.
Oh, I love it. Good.
Yeah. So, I mean, and all those other younger little ones who can just whiz right up. I'm like, okay, Francis, it's okay. You're going to make it. And you know, what is amazing to me is we started jumping rope.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I was a little girl, I used to jump rope all the time. It wasn't a problem. Jump, jump, jump. We jump forever. But 1 minute of jumping rope, and I couldn't do it. And I told myself, Francis, you can do this. You've jumped rope once, you can do it again. Now, am I perfect at it? No, but can I sit there? And I don't do it really fast, but nevertheless, I'm there for a whole minute jumping rope. And all you have to do is do it. I mean, that's the hard message,
It's called practice, practice.
Right.
You know, and I think too, as we get older, we're like, we just get frustrated. We're like, well, I used to do that. Now I can't do that. And everyone blames it on age too. So they're like, I'm too old. I can't do this.
Yeah.
But, and no, you can do anything you want to. Right now, some of the biggest YouTubers are women that are in their late 80s and 90s competing in bodybuilding.
Oh my gosh.
I love it. And they're getting down on the floor and doing push-ups and they're doing one-arm push-up. It's wonderful because they literally decided, you know what, I'm going to do this.
Well, I interviewed, I think it was 2 years ago, Lois Pope, who, do you know Lois?
No, I don't know her, but I've heard
She
of her.
used to live on Key Biscayne. Now she lives in Coconut Grove. But she is 85. So when she was 60, I think, she took up, because her husband was a biker and a triathloner, so she took all those things up. And she just, at 85, she got first place in both the triathlon in her age group and the biathlon in her age group. I mean, and it's like, you just go out and do it. It's not so hard.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, now, how motivate? I mean, because, and this has always been the thing I've had the hardest time doing, is how do you, I try to lead by example. You know, I fit into clothes that I have fit into 30 years. In fact, I showed you the stains, which means I have to get a new pair of white pants. And I was so proud of, oh yeah, still good. But when someone is overweight, how is it? I mean, I hear so often, oh no, I'm fine. And even like the cute little movie star who won Best Supporting Actress on The Supremes. I forget her name, but she was heavy. And the minute she won Best Supporting Actress, what a surprise. She lost weight. But prior to that, she was fine. And I mean, I'm not even going to mention Lizzo, but I'm just thinking, how do you tell someone, no. I'm glad you like your body. I'm glad you feel okay, but it's better for your body. I mean, 10 pounds isn't a big deal. 20 pounds isn't a big deal, but 30 pounds is. Yeah. How do you do it? How do you have a book?
I don't have a book yet, but that's on the list. You know, it's a couple of things are attributed to the lack of motivation and to the lack of losing weight. And actually this even goes down into cancers and diabetes and everything else. The root of it all is stress. And the challenge with stress is that stress is something, I call it an onion. And at the very center of the onion is like a little baby, no stress whatsoever. And then all of a sudden in kindergarten, someone used to throw sand in their face. And mom used to just say, oh, just blow that person off. Don't, just stop crying. And that's one little layer of stress. And what we do is with those layers of stress, we kind of stick them in our back pockets and we ignored them. And then all of a sudden now we're 50, 60, 70 years old and we have all those layers that we have never addressed. We've never addressed them. And so we're just kind of trying to survive. And the reality is if we could unload, it's like carrying an extra heavy suitcase through the Miami airport. If we could unload some of that stuff, it would make it so much easier. It would be much more pleasant to go shopping through the little kiosks in the airport, right? If we could unload. And so I always say when it comes to stress, it's about really looking at stress in the eye, understanding it, and then letting it go. So an example of that is when I was in 5th grade, I went to Bay Harbor Elementary here in Miami. And there was a little boy he couldn't have been meaner to me. And one of those things my mom would say, you know, just blow him off. And a few years later, I come to find out that little boy, his dad used to beat the daylights out of him.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't know that at the time,
course,
right?
No,
I had no
information,
idea. So now that I knew that, I was more empathetic. and we actually became friends,
Uh-huh.
right? So I was able to look the stress in the eye, understand it, and then let it go. So it was one layer that I can take out of my back pocket and move on, right? And that's really what we have to do. And that tends to be at the root of so many people. And at the same time, too, because of those layers of stress, it stops us from going to get our dreams. It creates these boxes that we live in, when the reality is life is limitless. You can do anything you want to.
It's true.
You know, if I want to go out and be the next J-Lo, I can put my efforts into it and start to sing and get a singing coach and do what I need to do, right? So that's the area that most people put these blocks on. And then they put the blocks on, and then deep inside them, they're upset because they're not really going where they want to go or where they thought they should go. And we've got to be able to let those things go. And so when we can, getting rid of weight and everything is so much easier that way.
It is.
And being healthier. Because here's the thing too, and there's tons of research studies on it. The leaner you are as you get older, the healthier you are.
The healthier you are. No, without a doubt.
Absolutely.
All my 80-plus-year-old girlfriends, I can't believe how great they look. I'm just like, okay. And I don't say to them, gosh, you look great for your age, because I hate it when people say that to me. I look great at any age.
Yeah, period.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, Adita, I can't thank you enough for
You're very
coming.
welcome.
This is really so informative.
Good.
And I want you to hold those books up one more time, since you know how to do it and I don't.
the wrong way.
There we go. Yay. Adita Lang, ladies and gentlemen, from aditalang.com. And this is, let's look at the middle camera. Hey, and we're saying goodbye. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And Adita, come back anytime.
You got it.